This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Others are saying there's a movement, it's leaving. Others are saying okay, we'll get into that in a little bit. It's necessary for us to then be able to analyze some of these things. And in your position as policy and governance analyst, we can do this and have this conversation because it's important for us to do that.
Indeed.
How about you analyze a proverb from Burkina Faso first? Dennis?
Burkina Faso. The people there are called Burkinabés. The people of Burkina Faso have decided to come together to build their country. President Ibrahim Traoré is a darling for the world. Anywhere you go, he is revered because of the changes he's making in the country and the tough turns that he has made. But these are the proverbs you're getting from the Wahenga of Burkina Faso. The pants of today is better than the breeches of tomorrow. The pants of today is better than the breeches of tomorrow. How would you interpret that? What do you think the ancestors of Burkina Faso are saying?
I think Africa was basically a defiant continent, defiant in the sense that there are so many odds. When you're born in Africa, already life has dealt you 1-0, so you have to fight your way back. So I think in this defiance, there are things that you have to do which are necessary for the future. So I think that's the context within which I place that proverb.
Hey.
Okay.
When you're born in Africa, life has beaten you 1-0.
So you're struggling to float.
So you celebrate and enjoy what you have today because the future is not so sure.
It's quite uncertain here.
Indeed. Okay, so what's uncertain about what we're seeing happening with ODM? It's been established. Biggest political party in the country by membership and spread, representation as well, whether it is in Parliament. But there seems to be something that is eating away at the very fabric of the party. From your overview, what's happening?
I think first and foremost, maybe it's the time now the M in ODM is being actualized, the movement part now, that people have to move to different places, others have to move to the periphery and others move to the center. But more importantly is what we see in every business, in every, even in the corporate world, people never prepare for the eventuality of losing the founder of a vision. So when that happens eventually, because it has to, and that is life, then people grapple to put things together. And quite often, you find most people are followers. And while they are following, they never prepare themselves to feel the position. So basically what is happening in ODM right now is that inefficiency of leadership that equals that which Raila Odinga offered over the years.
So we look at ODM today, and one would look at a party that is considered to be the oldest party in the country, one that has its own vision that was well enumerated when former Prime Minister Raila Odinga was there. And with the wrangles that you see today in ODM, one would say that no one has really ever had the interest of the party at heart. It was a question of we are here because we are guaranteed. Raila Odinga would say, a set of torture and I would have the party. But no one really invested their time to consume the vision that the party had.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Definitely the people who were in ODM over the years were not there because they were building ODM. They were there because they were sheltering in a structure that was already built by another person. So everybody that moved towards ODM was quite sure about one thing, that they would hide under the wings of Raila Odinga. They will walk by his word, and his word was always final. And if you got the favor of having your hand raised in the nearest marketplace in your area, then you had favor upon the people. So all these people were prepared to receive from ODM, not to give to ODM. So this is a time that is calling them now to give their best to ODM. But you know what? You cannot give what you don't have.
What don't they have?
They do not have what it takes to build a party. They got into a party that was already built by somebody else. Then they benefited from that structure. Now, time and space is calling for them to bring the expertise to build a party to stand beyond the 30 years it has been there. And this kind of expertise is not what they were prepared for, is not what they were cut out for. and they do not have the expertise to do that.
Alanga, you're saying that the biggest political party in the country, and we know for all intents and purposes what a political party stands as a driver for, has politicians, many of whom sit in parliament. Some of them are governors, some of them are cabinet secretaries. You're saying that none of them actually has, at the moment, the wherewithal or what is necessary for party and ideology building and activation.
But Ndo, if you don't, if your memory doesn't fail you, some of them have openly called themselves cows.
Cow as in moo.
Yeah.
Moo more.
They say,
To be sure.
yeah, they've said themselves that I am Baba's cow.
Yeah.
So a cow cannot be capable of taking care of the homestead.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. So this is the time to perhaps find new leadership within the structures of that party. But more importantly is the structure upon which the party stood on for many years was Raila Odinga as a personality. So that personality is missing in action. And then in the words of Butler, the center cannot hold.
Not all. Well, clearly, the aura of desperation is palpable. Everybody can feel it. The people in ODM, they're scampering and wondering what happens next. As you say, the cows, according to you.
No, according to
themselves. They don't know what to do with themselves now because the owner of the herd is gone. And it is true, ODM was Baba and Baba was ODM. So is it, in a manner of speaking, as you said earlier, that the movement now, people are moving to different directions. Is it correct to opine that now the demise of ODM is inevitable? A function might remain, still calling themselves the ODM party, but the real essence, the spirit of the party, which would have been a government in waiting, which I think also is a saving grace for Kenyans, because if we had handed over a government to these people who are not able to manage themselves in terms of a party, maybe we would have sunk into a bigger crisis than we are in as a nation. But do I say? But I'm asking, when you look at now where the party stands, how do you see the demise of it playing out, the movement as you opined? Because you have different people from the leadership of the party. Signaling different messages to different courses of members of ODM. How do you see it playing out eventually?
For us to attempt to understand this quagmire that is the fall of ODM eventually, we have to contextualize this within the precincts of history. Remember, in 1994, after the demise of Jaramogi, there was people within Ford Kenya who wanted the party constitution to be followed and the handover to be done as per the law of the party. But there are those who felt also they needed to do like more of a hereditary arrangement where then Raila Odinga takes over as the son of Jaramogi. And that ideological difference brought the schism within Ford Kenya. And eventually it tore apart. And by that time, Ford Kenya had about 30 MPs from Nyanza. And in the next election, only 2 made it back to parliament. 2. And the 2 are Nyang' Nyong'o and Job Omino, who had actually joined Raila's NDP. So then 2025, there's the demise of Raila Odinga, and ODM finds themselves committing the same sin that was committed in 1994 by handing the party over to Raila's brother. Then it looks more of a hereditary structure. Then how does this hereditary arrangement fit within the pillars of ODM, which are more of a democratic approach to things? So one would ordinarily imagine that the party would have had Oburu Odinga hold the party during the mourning period and then relinquish the party to internal democratic organs to be able to find the new flag bearer and the leader of the party. But what has been done is not very different from what was attempted to be done in 1994. And therefore, the chickens are coming home to roost, because this arrangement or the exchange of power within ODM did not obey its own constitution. Remember, their own constitution says that when such a thing happens, then they have to call for an emergency
Yes.
in DC and elect a leader. But then instead they chose a shortcut, So that shortcut is what is bringing all this. Because now, if you look at the emerging leadership within the party, it does not fit because more or less it seems to antagonize the status quo within that party. And then also the issue of the party quickly receding into a tribal cocoon is also very evident on the table, so that it looks like it's more of a now a Luo Nyanza party than it was a national outfit. So those are the demons that this party needs to fight with in the next few days if they have to salvage the fall.
And perhaps also, might it be wise to think that maybe ODM, as we knew it, as we have known it through the years, has served its course. And there's a generational thing that is happening where you have now newer members of ODM who may have new ideologies because, fine, they've been agitating for social justice in a manner of speaking. But now we find ourselves in times where we have a different kind of a need as a nation. Of course, social justice is a continuum practice that we need to continue engaging in. But now the needs are changing. Now it's about the economy. Now it's about advancing and accelerating our development as a nation. Could it be that also that might influence a new formation within or without the ODM, whereby some members may feel, much as we have been a people's party, that battle has been fought and won. We have a constitution. Now, because of where we need to go as a nation, economically and otherwise, we may need to move now to other parties which have newer and modern and current ideologies.
I think one thing that Raila Odinga mastered so well in his politics was that every political formation exists because of its relevance. And here the relevance, oftentimes Raila drew it from the people themselves. And then he strategically placed himself as that last person that would question whatever is happening to the common man.
Yeah.
So that kind of progressive politics in terms of being there to always question the government on behalf of the citizens is what sustained ODM. Naturally, in our politics, we love to question, we love to cut across the grain. And therefore, if someone presents themselves as the person that will always help us cut across the grain, whether they get political power or not, Kenya has a way of sustaining that person. And that is how Raila was sustained over the years. But now, a new thought has come into the ODM and mostly the people within the party, the politicians within the party. And that is the desire to be in places of power. Well, it sounds like a very good business plan to be in the top seat of power or within the circles of power. But then when you are there, your existence is determined by time. And that is one thing that Raila knew, that if I become president, I'll serve my 2 terms and after that, I'm done. So he resorted to have power without responsibility all the time. Yeah.
Or was that by design?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was like a strategic way in which he wanted to exist within this space. Because look at Uhuru Kenyatta today. One day he was one of the most powerful people in this country for 10 years. But when his thing was done, it's over. And even very young politicians can tell him off.
It's interesting that you say that, because many would argue that he may still wield some kind of power. The man only has to open his mouth and people have their knickers in a twist because folks are asking, why should he still be speaking even after the presidency? But it would appear as though he makes somebody nervous in some way. So maybe this power without portfolio is not a very bad position to be in.
Indeed. And that is what ODM is treading away for the temporal closeness, proximity to power. And that is now the dangerous point, because what happens to, well, let's say ODM supports President Ruto for his re-election in 2027 and he serves up to 2032. So what happens to the people that were with him? So that's one of the key questions that should always linger in the minds of the people of ODM, because their party existed because it carried an ingredient that always stirred the honest nest. Now there isn't that person to do that. And that is why you see even the political climate in the country is quite lull, because everybody is running to the party in power. And so systematically, does ODM now become maybe an agent of a slip back into one-party rule, or the disintegration of the democratic space that was hardly fought for by Raila Odinga and many other people?
Alenga, are you suggesting that with what we're seeing and the movements within ODM, that ODM is done for? That everybody that is there today in ODM, because we've had reports of there are those who met with the president and they want ODM to disintegrate from within, that ODM iliuzwa. I'm just quoting what has been said. Is there hope for ODM? And as we talk about the shield that Odinga had for ODM and the power that he wielded in that party, that today many who have been exposed by the absence of Raila Odinga are therefore moving out to look for the same shield from the ruling party today?
That would be a very good thing if it was self-initiated. But as you see, our politics, you'll find at the end of the day, there's someone who's paying that bill for the movement out. Yeah. So when you continue interrogating every day, you'll realize, oh, so this one is exerting because so-and-so is funding them to do this and that. But if it was like they are just actually doing it out of their own volition, they have felt that this place is too small for the ideas that we have, then that move would be meaningful. But again, it's not enough to move out. But how do you sustain a different narrative that now keeps the focus on you as the emerging leaders, as the new people that have the aspirations of Kenyans? Because as it were, it's very clear that today, even if anything happened in this country, we'll hardly find somebody that can speak about it in the same rigor, tone, and emphasis that Raila would do. So, if it is so clear that this is the void, why aren't they rushing to fill this void? Because it's so clear that there was a person who would speak vehemently about things that are happening in the country. He would take the first, he would stand on the line and Kenyans behind him. So if that is so clear that this is the void and this is the gap that is supposed to be filled, why then are some people in ODM going for the low-hanging fruit of just moving closer to...
But the people who are calling for that seem to be called persona non grata. That seems to be the case. And we can say it because that's what's in the public eye. Edwin Sifuna, Caleb Amisi, Winnie Odinga have been very clear. And they said, you know what we need? We need an NDC for a decision to be made about the person who is going to broker the relationship between this political party and the government of the day, if that is going to continue until 2027. The party leader himself, just 3 days ago in Mombasa, said that constitutionally, according to the constitution that it is the party leader who would be the presidential candidate should the party stand for election. So it seems to be that even if they are not overt expressions, that there are murmurings about the position that should be taken. Call an NDC, talk about the person who's going to broker the relationship. And it seems as though the people who are asking for this are then being PNG'd. At the moment, there's already talk for an ouster motion of the Secretary General. People have had midnight meetings to try and, push that aside and let that not come to light. One of the deputy party leaders, Otiende Amolo, the other day in the presence of Millie Odhiambo said, okay, we're going to try and, make all these things. But it is all coming from the place that people are agitating for the very thing you talk about, Alenga, to say that, no, there needs to be somebody who's going to be the builder. We need that person. And that conversation seems to be uncomfortable in the ranks of ODM.
But now the problem is the ones who are saying, let's uphold on these things that Raila did. Let's uphold on these things that Raila told us. How much power do they wield within the party structure?
Secretary General is a powerful person. Raila Odinga, before his death, said very clearly, this is Edwin Sifuna. He is a Secretary General. When he speaks for the party. That's power.
Yeah, indeed. But you see, Edwin Sifuna, eventually our politics always takes the shape and form of the tribal, background behind a leader. Since the wars of Edwin Sifuna, I have not had a single legislator from Western Kenya standing to say we are actually defending the position of the Secretary General.
Caleb Amisi, he's from Western Kenya. He's spoken up, he's spoken.
Caleb Amisi.
Karoli Omondi, spoken.
Or also, could it be, from what you're saying, that the tribal card has expired?
Exactly.
But nowadays, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We are not playing those tribal politics anymore.
But look at the statement that Otiende Amolo released on his socials, and you look at the nomenclature of the attendees of the meeting,
The co-signees of the statement.
so then you tend to think it is quite inevitable that ODM is taking that route of becoming a tribal party. And even their commitment to work with the president in the next election cycle is not a commitment as a party, it's more of a commitment as we, the Luo people.
Okay, can I ask an uncomfortable question? And even as I ask the question, ready for the backlash, because I know it will come. The truth of the matter is that a lot of the people today, not all, a lot of the people who formed this party were handed positions by Raila Odinga. They did not grow up into the party. Somebody would be seen, okay, this could be, or I would do you a favor by presenting you blameless before the people, and they accept you because I, as Raila Odinga, said it. And that's why they are the knowns today. Even the ODM party chair today was handpicked by Raila Odinga and presented as somebody who would be women rep in Homa Bay before she became the governor. That's the truth.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people who sit in positions that we are now asking them to breed activism or to breed development
Leadership.
or breed leadership were not born leaders. They were handpicked by Raila Odinga. So did he do a disfavor to the party by handpicking them in that manner? And then now we are expecting these same people who were handpicked by Raila Odinga and said, give them a chance. We're expecting them now to foster some kind of leadership. Is it possible?
Well, I think in in my earlier conversation, I actually talked about it in the sense that you only needed to be presented by Raila in your nearest marketplace, and he says this is the person. But now, looking deeper into that is actually the main reason why we have square pegs and round holes in the ODM party in terms of the people who got into parliament and the people who were in Senate, the governors. It was more of a loyalty test where, the moment you say, and you'd hear them quite often say, my loyalty is first of all to the party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the favor that he did them.
Yeah. So given
the Moo moment.
Yeah. So given that even the basic understanding why your MP could not float in their mind to understand that you're basically an MP to represent the constituency you come from. That did not cross their mind. So they were first of all MPs for Raila Odinga before they become MPs for their specific constituencies.
Okay.
But again, favors come to us. But the moment you've already gotten the favor and you own it, it's now your personal responsibility to fit within that space and to claim your space. Today, if you got a visa to travel to the United States of America, the visa allows you to enter the U.S. soil. But now your conduct and your behavior in the United States determines how long you're going to live there. So then I think it's not an excuse anymore that these leaders never went through the class properly to imagine there will be a time when they have to fill a gap. Be that as it may, they always knew that Kenyans expected a certain level of leadership from them. That is so natural the moment you get elected people expect some form of leadership from you. And when you do this progressively, then that becomes your character. And so there was a problem in character development in this structure, and it does affect even many other parties. Remember, at one point, Jubilee was one of the biggest parties, but when Uhuru Kenyatta finished his time in power, the party has disintegrated
Very fast.
completely. So I think for us, we have a certain level of political immaturity that does not allow us to think beyond party loyalty. To serve the people, because in serving the people, that's where you develop the skills, and that is where you understand the needs of your communities and what exactly is required from you. So once you do this repeatedly, then it shapes you and it refines you into a better leader than when you came in.
And I'm also looking at it from another perspective, that could it be as a country, also as a continent, because also I'm looking at the trend. ANC in South Africa is also disintegrating.
Yeah.
They are not able to marshal a commanding win. You come to even our jirani here, CCM, they are also having their own issues. And I think also Malawi, Zambia, a lot of these post-colonial parties that led us into freedom and new democracies are collapsing in one way or the other. And my thinking is that could it is because our parties are not founded on ideologies. They are more personality based. So people congregate around a person who is able to command a following, as you're saying. Baba was able to do that for a long time. He built a very big party, in the east and the south of Sahara. But upon the exit of the founder members, like you opined earlier about the founding members of a company, there is this disintegration. Where otherwise, if we had parties that are based on ideologies, we keep referring to the Europes and the Western countries about Democrat, socialist. People become members. They subscribe to those parties because they believe this is an ideology. And you realize that within those party structures, there is very eminent leadership, where you'd even say this is the chairman in waiting, and the chairman in waiting is now like a prime minister in waiting. Should we go to an election? Because they're there to offer an alternative leadership, not just to the party, but also to the nation where they are. I think that is where our main problem is as a country, as a continent. And ODM is one of the casualties now, and perhaps from the 90-something parties that we have, we may need to start subscribing to parties that have an idea that we believe in, and then we can grow the characters of members within. And hopefully this can now escalate to higher offices.
I agree with your assertion. However, slightly, I think the biggest problem that we have is not even really the ideology. Because if you come through these manifestos of these parties, their documents, their statutory documents, they actually have real manifestos, real
yeah,
ideologies.
they're written by the same guy.
Yeah.
Brilliant man.
But now...
It's the same person.
Yeah, the same person. Look, let's be honest. Yeah.
So these are ambitions of the person.
Yeah.
It's not a convergence of ideas.
Yeah, because if ideology was the problem, then you would say I entered this party and I do not have instruments to refer to. But they are there. Now, the problem is commitment to causes is what we do not have in this country. If you look at, let's say, for instance, the U.S., if the Democrats go into an election and the Republicans win as it is today, the Democrats just leave it to the Republicans to lead the country, and they stay aside and watch whatever the Republicans are doing, and they correct where they should correct, and they reprimand where they should reprimand. But then, if you come back home, the moment we go into an election and Party X wins, and now everybody is rushing to Party X to pick the breadcrumbs from Party X table. Then, so where was your commitment in the first place? Yeah. You start singing about Party X more than even the members of that party, even more than the ones who voted for it. So your commitment to what you told the people, even though you did not get to sit on the seat, but there are things you told us. And those things were not similar to what Party X told us. So why are you now promoting those? at the expense of your own. Also, the issue of greed for personal gain. Because I want to sit closer to whoever is in power because I want to benefit from 1, 2, 3 things, directly benefiting, So that defeats the collective identity of political parties in this country. So how do we walk away from there?
Alenga.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Isn't that the fundamental problem, though? That we come to this party dressed for a church service. You've come to go to a club party dressed for a church service. You have a different preparation. Because you mentioned the parties in the US, for example, and I think about the Republicans. What are they heavy on? Conservatism, a limited government, free market capitalism. They talk about things like a strong natural a national defense. They talk about individual liberties and traditional social values. Those things will never be far from the mind of a Republican. Wake them up in the middle of the night, in the dead of sleep, they will tell you those things. They know them. Whatever they are doing, whether they're in the state of Washington or they're in Tennessee, a Republican will wake up in the middle of the night and tell you these are the things that the party believes in. Come to PNC, APC in Nigeria, or come to here, ODM, where you have a woman rep or somebody. Ask them what those ideologies are and what they live by. Can we make a comparison between the two on the ideology for which a party was funded? Because political parties are vehicles towards leadership whereby those things that you believe in then can be lived out and practiced because you now have the power. Can we truly say that ideologically bound we are? Can we? Because it's about me. You tell me. By the time somebody has a few shillings in their pocket, somebody tells, you should go run for office. Then they go around and then suddenly you're having conversations with the person who is in power, and then you give 1 million shillings so that you can be nominated for you. Then you have a tender and then you're very rich. Where's the ideology?
I think where it fails, the ideology is there, but where it fails is at this point. If you look at the parties in the US or even in the Scandinavia, they have very vibrant political convictions. It's because parties exist as structures for reform, in the sense that, the way our parties are structured, they are structured to prepare for the next election.
Yes.
So it is just an episodical involvement with that party. So I can be a very strong member of the UDA party because we are going into the election of 2027. And after that, even if you call me and ask me, what are your party colors, I may not even remember. But if you look at these parties in the US, in the Scandinavia, in Europe, they have even institutes for the party, where after their people have been elected, they go through training time and time and time again, so that those ideals are instilled in their mind. We have the Democratic Institute in the US. We have the Republican Institute in the US. They do not exist just for the sake of it, but to inculcate values into their people. Because every time people are going into an election, they're just looking for the most suitable candidate. But this most suitable candidate must be taken through a rigorous training and impartation of ideas so that they reflect the true person that we want to speak for this party. In the US, not just anyone will stand up and speak for the Republican Party.
Sure.
Not just any MP would stand and say, this is what I have to say. But here, because you have not gone through a regimen of good manners for politics, you just speak. And sometimes, I don't know if they listen to themselves after they have spoken, or that is purely us who do that for them. We feel ashamed on their behalf. So I think parties have to rethink how they are structuralized in terms of the input of ideals that come from their representatives. Also, these many progressive parties have think tanks, so that if we are going to talk about the economy, we are talking about the economy from a point of information. We have people that have researched and they are giving us talking points. So if we criticize the housing project, we are criticizing it not from a sentimental point of view, but from a point of information. So these millions that political parties get every year, what do they do with,
Yeah.
because those are some of the things that should have been done within the political party structure, so that you have a think tank, you have institutes for training and development in your political ethos and values, and equally nurturing young leadership within the party structures, so that every other time there is a gap, you have very many people ready to fill that gap.
Alenga, the reason why we don't see all those things is because if you see politicians call themselves cows, today one would say they are at the Kimale Auction Center and they're up for the next grab. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. You know what I mean?
They're feeding on Lucerne and hay.
So here's the question where, if you talk about, let's even look at ODM, and I go back to a point where Raila Odinga, before getting into broad-based government, there's something he did. He said, I will go back to my people, to my party members, and ask them what they think about this process that I want to get myself into. Whether that happened to the degree that it ought to happen, it's a different conversation. But then we bring in the people who make up these parties. Because today, as we speak, there is the annotation that party members are political leaders that we see perambulating all over the place, right? But there are the people who are usually called for all these NDCs for them to make the decision for the party. The party is not a few hundred MPs who are in these seats representing individuals. It is the people who give the party the power that it wields. As we speak about ODM today, one would hope that an NDC would have perhaps charted the way forward, because then the people would have elected those they want to lead the party. Why is that difficult in calling for these NDC within ODM, so that the people make a decision on who their leaders would be, and we stop seeing cows?
The leaders would not like an NDC, because an NDC is a place of accountability. And for the last 3 years since you were elected, you have not done anything for the people of Vihiga constituency, where I come from. So you'll not be willing to come and confront delegates from Vihiga. So you'd rather take your convenient shortcuts to make certain decisions. But there's an important question that you raise, that away from these political leaders who speak most of the time, there are party members who are ordinary Kenyan citizens. What role do they play in accountability, in the accountability structure of these parties? Number one, the same leaders that I said earlier on are ill-equipped to handle political conversations, are ill-equipped to understand party ideologies, are ill-equipped to synthesize the sentiments of the people, are the same people that are supposed to lead the discussions in terms of civic education at the grassroots levels. But these people, once elected, do they even step on that ground? Never. They disappear.
Do they even step in parliament?
Yes, even in parliament, they don't step there. So the people back in Vihiga just look at the TV. And when they see maybe someone is bashing another, they say, yeah, that one is doing a good job, So also, it has to cascade down to the level of the grassroots to ask the people, what sort of a leader do you want, And what role do you play in shaping this kind of leadership? So can these parties also even cascade their structures to effectively cover the grassroots in terms of, even the trainings, the conversations with the people, the so-called public participations? Can they use them as forums to, tell the people what they need to know? But now, where it is supposed to come from, there's complete lack of that reasoning. So then, where does the buck stop? Is it the leaders? Is it the common people on the ground? For me, I think it's the normal Kenyan outside there that is supposed to set the bar. If the Kenyan outside there does not set the bar for what kind of MP they want, for what kind of MCA they want, for what kind of governor they want, then it is not going to happen from without, as a miracle that all of a sudden we woke up and we had very sensible members of the county assembly that don't pull guns in public places and scare patrons. That it's not going to happen by accident that we have a county governor who is accountable for the funds placed in their hands. The Kenyan person has to ask for this kind of leadership that he wants. And I think we're not very far from there. We are edging very closer there. Because the kind of leadership that we see in this country is more of a generational issue than it is, a liking of the people. Because we have a generation of politicians who did not have conversations for the people, but they had freebies for the people. We have gifts for you, but we don't have conversations for you. And at the conversational level is where the normal Kenyan on the street can come in and have his say. So our level of debate is very low. But so we incentivize our presence to the people using, CDF, bursary,
even sweets.
Literally.
Sugar,
Picky body.
and I agree with you because a case in point is the recent sweet situation, the by-election that we had across the country. We saw heavy presence of these politicians from different camps, different parties. Even ODM was one of them.
Yeah.
And they went and bribed or bought voters, whatever your tokenism, whatever you want to say. But today, the common voter from Bere North, where we hear $500 million was spent, does not even know where his MP is today.
Yes.
But every day they were treated to, freebies, as you say. And therefore, it raises the question, like, have we as a people realized the power we hold as the voters, as the members of these political parties? It's something we need to amplify so that we can know the power that we yield. To the extent that now in the upcoming general election, I think people should be in a situation where they say, yes, we want you to be our MP, but we want you to go to Dennis, who will be our president. So we want you in this party because this is the party that serves the interest that we feel will be addressed in that coming regime. And I think until we do that, we will be shortchanging ourselves, because the people who are very vocal from ODM today, who are saying, no, Baba left us in ODM, especially that lot, they seem to be seeking political expediency for themselves, the personal gains. Because it is difficult, it is very unclear today how people are going to secure direct tickets from the ODM party, unlike how Baba used to do it. I think that is the threat, that is the fear they're having from within. And now they're scampering for safety. Where do I go? How do I secure my re-election? Because evidently they may not have a presidential candidate on the ballot, according to me. Hence, they're seeking this coalition. But I think more is about political expediency. The fear is there. But I think the disintegration, in my opinion, needs to be allowed to happen so that even the Luo Nyanza region can have a crop of leaders that the people have elected by choice. Not the enforced from the, as you said, proximity from the party leader or the party leadership, where Dennis would get a ticket and I don't, because even if he went for nominations, he would be given the ticket anyway.
Joe Tosha.
Oh, Joe, okay.
The problem we have is we do not have people that are willing to step out and, do that which is unthinkable. Like the way Jaramogi did in 1965 when he felt the space was not accommodating him. But the wise men say that a man who offers his own head to break a coconut may not live to eat it. So I think we are in an era of self-preservation, and that is why, even as it is within ODM structures and many other parties, there are people that are not happy in those parties, but they will not make the decision to bolt out and seek an alternative vehicle or form an alternative aspiration for the people of Kenya. They want to stay safe. You want to have your cake, and you still want to eat it. So I think earlier on I said it's more of a generational question. And the reason why I place it as a generation question is because we have the legacy politicians, the people within a certain age bracket that have been doing politics for the last 30 years and above. They have one clear way of thinking. Their clear way of thinking is bribe the masses, they will go the direction you want. But now we have to rattle the room and try to create a situation where we have capacity within ourselves to decide who we want to lead us and how we want them to lead us. And now, which generation can perfectly do that? I think it's the younger generation, because we do not have a lot of baggage, you know, and also we don't owe anyone anything, you know, because some of these legacy politicians, each other has the secrets of the other. They have the scandals of the other person. So you try to speak up and they'll tell you, we remember what you did last summer. So it's difficult even for people to express themselves in that sense. But the younger generation has maybe a divine calling to rescue this country from the silly politics that we have, so that we can have a more issue-based politics, a more people-centered politics. And that can happen as early as in 2027 by, being strategically useful in the manner in which the elections happen and what leaders we choose right from the MCA level. And for me, I consider two seats very critical in this country: the MCA seats and the Member of Parliament. If you look at the democracies we've quoted here earlier, they are mostly strengthened by their parliaments, their houses. Those are the places where their democracies are anchored. Because once you lose at parliament and at county assembly level, then you might not fix it at the executive level, because we tend to think it's the president that needs to fix this, it's the president that needs to, but we have a whole bunch of men and women that are supposed to check this president to ensure that he's doing things as per the rules in the book. But these men and women have decided to sleep on the job, fraternize with the executive, and then completely forget that this is the huge mandate that we have. We cannot say, you have heard members of parliament openly say that speaking in parliament requires just a lot of English. But for me, when you come to the ground, the people know I am working for them. But then, if you look at the constitution, primarily, why do you elect a member of parliament? To legislate, to make laws for you, to represent you, to speak for you where you on a table that you cannot reach, to oversight public revenue and its expenditure. Building roads is not there.
No, it's not.
Building schools is not there. Buying school buses and writing there your name is not there. But then that is where it starts. So I think in 2027 we could start by just having a youthful revolution on the ballot, because you cannot teach an old dog new tricks.
And I'm putting it this way, that an MP and an MCA, these are your messengers. So why would you send a messenger that cannot deliver a message?
He ends up working for another person. He tells you, we are serving this guy. You find MCAs are serving the governor so that they could get maybe their projects
Tenders.
and tenders. The members of parliament are quickly, I think sometimes they even go and ask the president, what do you have this time around that we can pass for you?
But he put them on notice. Like you had last week, he said, "Nanyinyi wabunge mujipange." He's coming. What is coming up? I think the airport and something else.
Yeah.
So he prompt. You can
I have
imagine.
something coming,
I
so
have
you guys
something.
Get ready.
Get ready.
There you have it.
One thing you did say is that we don't engage enough, we don't have these conversations enough, we don't plug into these conversations necessary for us, because what is civic education? It's not somebody standing at a blackboard with a stick and saying 1, 2, 3. It's about learning from conversation. Some of the biggest lessons for certain things are when you engage in conversations and plug into discourse. Thank you for doing this. We are looking forward to seeing if we can have a further conversation with you in not too long a time now.
Sure.
Alenga Torres Sturt, thank you so much for being here this morning. We see what happens in the next hour. Good morning, 9 a.m.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.